This is just a little bit of I don't know, sort of a inside look into the writer's process, at least my process, when going ahead and writing a novel, or in this case, revising certain sections of a novel on which you've been at work for quite some time. This particular novel I'm working on is a mystery. I've been working on it for about a year and have not actually reached the end of it. For those of you who do not know, I try my best to write as little drafts as possible, and in order to do that, I basically try to write so carefully that I won't have to make any changes along the way. But oftentimes it tends to be that I do evidently have to, and so in the initial writing I tend to tinker with things, often before a first draft is even finished, because I want this thing to be as perfect as possible, so that in the end I won't have to do much editing. And so that hopefully when such a thing is published, it can, go through the various people and they can okay it and such, and it will be all fine and dandy. And they will think that this first draft is really about a sixth or seventh. That's how I work. And so naturally, when you are stressing over sometimes a single paragraph, this sort of perfectionist viewpoint is given great emphasis. This paragraph right here in my novel, that one there, I just completed writing. That paragraph is supposed to be this one right here. I'll give you a little bit of time to read that. Maybe you can pause it if you'd like. But essentially, in this mystery novel, it's not your average mystery. I know the average mystery formula like the back of my hand, and have found myself rather annoyed with it, and am willing to. I'm actually an advocate for most mysteries that are unconventional in a sense, because really the days of Conan Doyle and Agatha Christie and Dorothy Sayers, they are gone, and therefore those old cliches cannot be relied upon forever, which is why I champion such writers as Josephine Tey or Iris Murdoch or even Edgar Wallace, any people like that. In fact, I'm reading a mystery right now. This is a bit off topic, but I'm reading sort of a mystery right now. Jackson's Dilemma by Iris Murdoch, which is it does not have an inspector in it, which is a very rare thing. Mine does have an inspector in it, but the only difference between my novel and the various other novels written by so many other people is that my inspector is a horologist. He loves working on watches and such, and he hates the business of detection. He thinks it gets in the way with his profession as a watchmaker and such. And so therefore, when he's roped into this ostensible mystery, he sort of has to actually behave like a detective would. And it even, it's fairly satirical in some parts with, that with sort of rebuking the usual mystery genre, with him being said to have been involved in utterly impossible and really cliched cases. But in fact, this case itself is very, very unconventional and very, very, I think, new and refreshing. But anyhow, so I did make a slight change to the manuscript. This is like my fourth or fifth time going through it. I only wrote about the first, how many pages? 60-some pages. I intend for this book to be no longer than 120 pages, because really, mysteries themselves should go quick, and to tell you the truth, I have other projects that I want to be working on. I have so many other novels that I want to write, and although I'm enjoying this project, it's been with me for far too long, much like that one first novel that I may just end up self-publishing, to be honest with you, because really it's hell to have to keep that with me. But anyway, so I made a slight alteration to some part of the text. Basically, it's this little bit at the beginning here. I think I can pull this up. And also, this mystery novel does not center solely around the detective. In fact, there's several subplots and such dealing with different characters. There's even a dying newspaper in here, of all things. It's really out of the ordinary. Let's see if I can find it here. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, yes. Okay, so the part that I put in, I decided that the concept of him hating detection was so ingenious that I decided to run with it and basically rewrite the book to basically emphasize that point even more. So originally, this paragraph here on page 8 in that one, which is in page 5 in this book, says, "Both men eyed her, now shrunken again, and then each other. Stone," that's the name of my inspector, "disinterred his tobacco pouch and began to roll himself a cigarette." A very simple thing, and it doesn't really connote much. But this one here, the revised version, I decided to add a wee bit more depth to his character and such, and really just to emphasize that this inspector is unlike Holmes, unlike Poirot, unlike Miss Marple, unlike Alan Grant, unlike what the hell's his name? Mr. Moody? I don't remember the name of Dorothy Sayers. Unlike Dalglish, unlike all those people. Both men eyed her now shrunken figure, and then one another. More of this bloody rubbish, Stone thought. And right when business was starting to pick up. Doubtless, he disinterred and tobacco and control senses began to roll. That bit there changed the book completely to where I had to rewrite a whole paragraph. Actually, several portions of this book, but this one here is the most significant change so far. I'm still going through this, but this is this paragraph here. Stone had misjudged his young friend Eric. How cretinous of him, rather wordy, squiffed by aboriginal deliquescence. Why did he not notice the rough job done on Whitey's stick, his Luby walk, make the connection of how certain watches, onions mostly, ran regrettably slow on an improvised string of catgut? He could not yet be certain. It would geld him to doubt Jenkins again, either way. Some of the European had begun to filter back into his system, so what were a few quick that there makes him sound a wee bit submissive, and not at all. He sounds rather cliched, I must say, as though this rather hardened character who just wants to get this thing over with. He will take no for an answer. This completely contradicts his character. So what I did then was I completely rewrote the paragraph. And this took me like a couple days to think about how I was going to do this. I got to this point in the narrative, chapter 9, and I just stood there, or sat there rather, and was just thinking, how in the hell am I going to word this to where this character of mine, this inspector, who really does not give a toss about this business, how am I going to make it so that it's consistent with what I've already established? And so I came up with this. So it seemed that Rodney Stone had misjudged his young friend Eric Jenkins. Preposterous! How respectable Radawati was. How calm his delivery had been. In his delivery he had been. What genuine concern he displayed towards Reynolds' own well-being. Must one bring up Aroha again? No way in hell was Wati responsible. But Jenkins was so damn persistent. Thus he had no choice but to play along. That there, even though it took me about a half an hour to bang that out, it took me about 48 hours just to think of what I was going to put down there. And believe me, this is a rough... I try not to have rough drafts. I try to have first drafts every time, but as you can see, there's a first draft there. In fact, this novel itself has gone through various changes. I've changed the setting. I've changed the names of characters. I have changed pretty much the whole premise, really. And, basically, when it is in the end finished, it will hopefully be to the point where it's somewhat complete, to where after one last reread, just to make a few cursory corrections, once it goes to the publisher, if I can find such a thing, because I have been informed by a very good friend of mine that that's not necessarily the choice that I want to make, even though I still want to take a chance with it. I mean, I know that this whole, what's it called, Patreon thing, or oh God, I forget the name, just online, this whole audiobook thing, just reading the work out online is a big thing now. But I still want to try and do the traditional route, because I want to be recognized as an author, not as a moderator, and I want proof of that, not just a recording. I want this. I want me to have a printed book, very much like this, with the words in there, with my name on it. And I have considered self-publishing, although it may be expensive. I'm not too sure, but I'm going to try with all my might to get to the point to where I can be published professionally, or by a smaller press or anything. But either way, I get to the point where I've done already so many corrections on the initial draft of the writing that it is pretty much a completed book. And this is pretty much the travail that I have to endure in order to bring this work to you. I do the same thing for short stories as well, and I've done it for. Well, this is my second novel that I've written. Probably the first one I'm going to have published, because the one I have been teasing, the one about my personal life, is probably going to just go in the drawer, because I don't want to deal with it anymore. But anyway, it just goes to show you what writers have to go through. And it completely changed the entire direction of my story. Well, not completely, but anyway, I just thought I'd show you that, and you all have a good night, or morning, or day, or afternoon, depending on when you see this. If you see this, I don't even know if I'm going to post this, to be honest with you, but